Studio Nxumalo Contemporary have collaborated on a new project with Steyn Entertainment and Dusse, where 9 independent artists have been given an opportunity to exhibit their artworks. The exhibition, that's under the theme The Oasis, is currently showing at the Hallmark Hotel in Johannesburg and will be on display until the 14th of February next year. To tell us more about this, as well as the artists whose work have been installed for this project, we're now joined by its curator, Kamogelo Walaza, and director, Musa Nxumalo. Very good morning to you two. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Good morning.
Musa, let me start with you. Let's start with how this collaboration between Studio Nxumalo Contemporary and Steyn Entertainment and Dusse came about.
Yeah, so we got approached by Steyn Entertainment, and basically they have started this initiative called the Summer Series, where basically it was looking back at the year 2020 and 2021 and how COVID-19 and the lockdowns has affected the artists. And so this is part of a larger project that looks at musicians, filmmakers, dancers and visual artists. And then that's how they got to invite us to come and curate a visual arts exhibition at Hallmark Hotel.
Okay, speak to us, Musa, about this exhibition and the significance behind the title and the theme, The Oasis.
So basically, the title, The Oasis, comes about the building where the hotel is basically located. And it's, in fact, one of my favorite buildings in the city, based on the fact that it is designed by one of the most prominent architecture in the African continent, David Ajayi. And I've always looked at that building and saw it as kind of like an oasis based on like where it is located. It's a very like creative building, which is like all black. And, you know, when I first saw it, it was very green also because it had plants, you know, kind of like architecturally. And I've always saw it as this one thing that I've always looked forward to when I go downtown, you know, in the city, either to visit artists and stuff like that. And so also the Hallmark Hotel and Steyn Entertainment, what they're doing with that building is quite interesting because it's very much creative. You know, when you go inside the hotel, they have furniture by local designers. You know, they have this program where they do rooftop events, and it's quite different, you know, to what everything else is happening around the city. And it's almost like it's the oasis of the creativity in Johannesburg at the moment.
Now, Kamo, let me bring you in. You curated this project. Tell us more about the process that went into putting this exhibition together.
So I co-created with Musa right here, and when we co-created it, we always think of it in a storytelling context, right? Yes. So the building is quite like long, right? So we began at the bottom with Mfundo's artwork, right? And since the theme is the Oasis, right, we wanted to create a storytelling sub-themes around it, right? So we started with the bottom place at Hallmark House with the portraiture of Mfundo's artwork, and it's beautiful portraiture that has abstract work, right? And when we want the viewer to come in, we want them to feel a certain thing. They should question themselves. They should feel something, because that's what artwork is about, right? And then as you move up, you have a metaphysical way of working, what the practice of life is, you know. We have the Frederick Clark work, we have Lerato Lori work that speaks about spirituality, you know, and then we have Abungile's work, which is very, very, very much portraiture. It goes straight to the point, and it just speaks about what life is essentially about. Then you go upstairs, right? It's another story. And like Musa said, that is this large building that's surrounding Johannesburg. And we're very intentional with the work that we also put upstairs, Vusi's work, that speaks about what Johannesburg is, the social political ills that are happening, the social ills that are happening. And that was what Vusi's work is all about, you know. So we're intentional for that the viewer comes in, they must feel something. But as curators, we wanted to create a story behind the work and how each work works with one another.
Now, come on, speak to us about the 9 artists that are featured as part of this exhibition. How do they come on board, and what is it about them that you saw that made you decide that, you know, they need to be part of the exhibition, and the kind of value that they will bring, that will bring on board?
So as Steyn Nxumalo, we're very critical with the work that we put in, and we're also very intentional with the work that we put in, right? So the artists that we have around is artists who have certain contemporary work around it, right? Yes. But they also have, like what I said, a story behind their work, you know. Yeah. Olwetu and Lerato Loli, they speak about spirituality with most of their artwork, and they have theories behind this. Mfundo speaks about contemporary life and the lives that we live right now. You know, sometimes it's not essentially about looking at the history and archival things, but we also, like as a youth right now, we also have a history. We also want things to be said about us. We also exist, and Mfundo goes back to that praxis, you know. So that's why we choose the artists we do and the artists that we have in there, because they have certain stories that they say as well, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the other thing with all the artists that are featured on this show is that they are all independent artists. You know. So as Steyn Nxumalo, we've always been deliberate with the artists that we work with. So it's artists who are kind of like dedicated to their practice, and they are into this idea of, or they see themselves as independent artists. And that's how we got to choose all the artists that we work with. Also, I think just quickly, like aesthetically, we really had to think about the way the hotel has been set up at the moment, you know, because already they have, you know, interesting furniture, interesting colors as you come in, you know, and they have these hallways which are kind of like dark and everything like that. And we thought each and every work that we select and where we put or where we hang those works, you know, somehow we need to be in conversation with the works that the building has already done in that sense. So.
Yeah, sure. And we heard Kamogelo say earlier that this project has assumed this storytelling concept. I mean, there's a story behind the kind of work that the artists are doing. What's the story that is being told through this project?
Yeah, I think with this, like, I mean, it's all rounded with all these artists here. So firstly, it's the idea that, you know, well, in the past five years or so, you know, we have seen kind of like similar works that are coming outside of the African continent. You know, the idea of the actual portrait, so the black portrait, you know, and it has caused like what do you call, like a big interest internationally. And you find that artists who works outside of portraiture or explore abstract work, etc., or experiment with different kind of like materials, of kind of like being on the periphery of what it means to be a contemporary artist living and working right now in Africa. And so with the selection of work that we have done, we've deliberately chosen artists who are not kind of like well known for portraiture or portraying Black people figuratively. So that's why you see works like Fred Clark, which is very much like free in terms of how he expresses himself. One good example, again, will be Olwetu Diforce, who has this work that he has done with steel wool. But then this work reflects back again on 2020 and COVID-19. Okay. The work has an interesting title, well, but then...
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Just briefly, Kamo, I understand that these 9 artists have a strong connection to the city of Johannesburg. Yeah? Tell us more about this and how their experiences are narrated through their art pieces.
It's narrated in the context of, like I said, Steyn Nxumalo is about enhancing the lives of independent artists who create work that is very contemporary. So we're very, very, very intentional about that, you know. So it speaks about us right now, you know, what we see ourselves at, and seeing also, in as much as like it's super contemporary, we also want to see our mothers in it, but that's how contemporary works, you know. Okay. So we want the youth to be able to come in and see the artwork and also buy the artwork essentially as well, you know.
And they all live and work in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Musa and Kamogelo, lovely chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.